The house hums with chaos every day. Little hands pulling, little voices fray. Laundry piles high like mountains, gray. But she climbs, she finds a way. Three little storms, her world they shake. Three little suns, her dawn they make. They call her mad, but they don't see. She's the stars of her sky, the roots of her tree. Through the noise, through the tears, she turns the madness into years. She bends, she breaks, she mends, she tries. She's the stars of her sky. Markers on the walls, the clock spins wrong. Mornings melt like honey, nights stretch too long. Socks don't match, the math feels strong, but her love hums louder, a steady song. Three little storms, her heart they keep. Three little dreams, her soul they sweep. They call her mad, but they don't see. She's the stars of her sky, the roots of her tree. Through the noise, through the tears, she turns the madness into years. She bends, she breaks, she mends, she tries. She's the stars of her sky. Markers on the walls, the clock spins wrong. Mornings melt like honey, nights stretch too long. Socks don't match, the math feels strong, but her love hums louder, a steady song. Three little storms, her heart they keep. Three little dreams, her soul they sweep. They call her mad, but they don't see. She's the stars of her sky, the roots of her tree. Through the noise, through the tears, she turns the madness into years. She bends, she breaks, she mends, she tries. She's the stars of her sky.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Happy Thursday to everyone in the United States or North America, and happy Friday to anybody who is outside of North America, who is about 10, 12 hours ahead of me at least. I'm in Pacific time zone. Thank you all so much for joining. This is going to be a very, very powerful episode and a very unique episode because I had never heard of these topics before until I met the very lovely guests we're about to see today in just a few minutes. So, once again, everyone, thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedules and come join us today. We're going to learn something very, very new and something very unique to a lot of us that we may have never heard of before, because I know I hadn't. And I just want to be able to communicate something brand new to everybody so we can all learn and grow from that, especially when someone has struggled with their own internal conflicts and then adding that, not adding that, but surviving and thriving with love and kindness, not just within themselves, but with the people around them. That is all that we stand for because kindness is the key to life and happiness. At least that's what I think. And we have quite a few people who have joined us today. But before that, I do want to thank our sponsor today, Guiding Brilliant Light Writers, and its founder, Nicole. Thank you so much, or Nick. Thank you so much, Guiding Brilliant Writers, the gifted bipolar writer, Nick, for sponsoring today's episode. Please know that today's episode would not have been possible without Nick's support and also without the support of our guest who's joining us. So I'm just going to quickly say hi to whoever has joined us today. So the first person who I saw was Mr. Bill Rochelle. Thank you so much for joining from Miami. I believe you're in, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Then we have Tracy from Texas who's joining us today. Thanks, Tracy, for being here. Kenny, Daddy Kenny from Texas as well. Thank you so much for being here. And there she is, Nick, our lovely sponsor for the day. Thank you so much, as always, for being my big support or system and making things happen, not just for me, but for other people as well. You are a rock star. And then we have who else? We have, okay, we have a lot of comments coming in. So why don't we just go ahead and take a break from the comments and welcome our guest, shall we? Because I am eager to have this conversation with her. And there you go, Lisa. She's here as well. Another support system for me. So if anybody wants to learn more about Nick or Lisa, please do connect with them. And then without further ado, please allow me to welcome our lovely guest, who is not only one of the most gorgeous human beings I've ever met, but who gave me a chance in sharing her story. She decided to trust me enough with her story, trust me enough in opening up to me and telling me what she's all about. And I want everyone to know about her as well. So, welcome the lovely, beautiful Cherie. Yay! Hi,
Hi,
Cherie.
how are you?
I am fantastic now that I'm getting to talk to you. How are you doing?
Oh, very well, very well.
I'm so glad to hear that. And the fact that both of us are matching with pink, I'm even
I
more excited
know.
about that. So Cherie, this is your show today. This is all about you. I personally want to know and learn a lot about you because as you already know, my brain is a curious brain. So when you told me a lot about your family and about yourself, of course, curious minds want to know, and of course, curious minds who are joining us want to know as well. So first things first, tell us who you are. Who is Cherie, and tell us about your company, Adapt to Innovate.
Amazing. Well, first, thank you very much for having me and allowing myself in the space to be able to, share my story. So I appreciate yourself and also Nick for supporting you on this journey. So who is Cherie? Cherie is a mother of four. I am also one of five children. Growing up, being one of five is challenging enough as it is, having so many children. And as a child, I was quite challenging. So therefore, quite often, I was told to, think before I speak, or just don't speak at all, really. So that's how Adapt to Innovate has somewhat come about. My history is over 18 years in operating businesses. I have started 3 businesses, and I facilitate within organizations self-awareness. So understanding yourselves, understanding others, and how to, gain a really good relationship between working colleagues, and to build workplaces where people feel safe to speak up, valued, heard, and that they don't want to leave. So that's what I do.
So, Shuri, I'm so glad you shared that because I now remember how I got connected to you or how I found you. So, I was actually looking for the same thing that you're talking about right now about what the consultancy does about building better workplace environments, having a better understanding between colleagues so we can all work together well and not leave the company and we can all understand each other better. And I was researching on what company I should work with as a vendor to bring into my former employment before I got laid off, of course. And your name showed up, and I wanted to reach out to you, but I was like, you know what? Cherie has a lot more to offer than just adapt to innovate. I know there's a lot more to her story. And then I told you about what the duck, and then that's where you kind of opened up a little bit about your own ADHD and then your children as well. So please know that I'm extremely, extremely appreciative of that and you giving me a chance to talk to you and learn more about you and the opportunity to share, of course, with Nick's support. So I just want you to know that in front of everyone, whoever's watching us today.
Thank you.
So, oh, thank you. I should be thanking you. So, perfect. And folks, if you do have any questions for Cherie, please do list them in the comments. I'm looking at them as we go, and Cherie's looking at them as well. So it's not like, oh, it'll be ignored. But I do want to make clear that sometimes StreamYard doesn't really share everyone's comments. So if I'm showing or displaying your statements or comments or greetings on the screen, that means I can see them. But if you're saying something and if I'm not displaying them on the screen, it means that I StreamYard won't let us see it or StreamYard's blocking it. So please don't think we're ignoring you or anyone's ignoring you. We just can't see it. So Cherie, let's talk about let's be on the topic of you first. So you mentioned that you have ADHD. So as a personal diagnosis, how when or how did you come across the fact that you had ADHD before we even jump to what actually is PDA and ODD? So
So I was diagnosed later on in life at the age of 37, although majority of my life, actually you would probably say in my entire life, um, I did have an inkling that I did have ADHD. And if we're thinking 30 odd years ago, yes, the conversation had come up in my younger days, but back then my family didn't want myself to take a tablet, or it wasn't as freely spoken about as it is today. So, did we know I had ADHD as a child? Absolutely. When did I take action? At the age of 37.
that is such an important thing that you said right now because I mean ADHD is I mean, you're right. So I grew up in the United Arab Emirates, and I was telling you about that too. And anytime when somebody who seems a little bit different, or there might be something that's not neurotypical, that's
Yeah.
usually disregarded, or just accusing that child or youth as being too much and things like that. But just the fact that ADHD, excuse me, is getting a little bit more out and about, not out and about, but there's more information on that being shared with everyone. That's actually a good thing to know. But I feel like you want to say something, so go ahead.
No, you're right. There is a lot more help in understanding ADHD. There's a
Mhm.
lot more help in understanding strategies. And we do have to speak about this more because quite often, even when I'm in public myself, before, sure, I would have absolutely looked at a child that was misbehaving, and my initial thought was, looking at the parents and thinking, is this child going to be disciplined, or this child is disrespectful? And now that I experience all that myself in public with my children, I understand that, the impulses are real. They don't have control of them. And we just have to be really supportive. So speaking about it more helps people to understand when they are seeing a child who is misbehaving, offer your support if you can.
I'm so glad you're saying that, Shuri, about offering support because I think that's what's lacking when it
Mm,
comes to understanding children, especially. I mean, of course, generations are different, but I feel like children really need that support, that kindness, that encouragement. That hey, then there's nothing wrong with you. You're great the way you are. You just may need extra help and support here and there. Sure, absolutely. So let's
yeah.
work together.
And supporting the parents as well.
Hmm.
They're doing the best that they can every single day. And every day is a new challenge, and every day looks different, and no day is the same. And every outburst is different. And what may have worked yesterday may not work today.
You are so right about that. You are so right about that. And everyone, I was just telling Shuri before we even went live that whenever she speaks, I get nostalgia, not because I'm from Australia or I grew up in Australia, but because, for example, if you were listening, she used the word tablet. Now, in North America, or at least in the United States, we use pills, not instead of
Oh,
tablet. And just for anybody who wanted to get the clarification of that, tablet means pills. And we used to say tablet when I was growing up in United Arab Emirates as well. So talking to you is like nostalgia for me.
yeah,
So
wow.
thank you so much for that. And Nick, our sponsor, wants to know, how do you identify when symptoms of your ADHD is affecting your business?
So that comes down to understanding your own ADHD. Now, everybody's ADHD is completely different and shows up differently. So, one individual may have something that the other doesn't experience. So, for myself, I have a strategy, and really all it is talking to my head. So, I know what my body wants to do. And if I see something that isn't in place on my desk and I want to move it, or I know I want to jump to the next task without finishing that task, it's all about just telling myself, no, you need to complete that.
Mm.
So for myself on my business, I have alarms that go off. I have calendar color coded calendars for tasks. And it's definitely just very structured.
Structure. That is something we're going to dig deep into it in just a little bit. So, thank you so much for sharing that, Shuri. I think getting a little better understanding of how different people have
Mm.
no ADHD is identical. So everyone lives differently, has their own different symptoms, has their own different structures, strategies, and way of life. And like you said, no one day is the same, or no day is the same. So that brings me to the main topic of our discussion today. There was somebody who asked, I believe it was OG Mike from YouTube, who was asking, what is PDA and ODD? And Charles, I believe, said PDA is public display of affection, which I know that's not what we're going for. And then ODD, oppositional defiance disorder. So why don't we just go and start with the first one, then PDA? I know that when you and I were talking, you mentioned three of your four children are neurodivergent. And is it one who has PDA?
Yeah. So the 14-year-old has PDA ODD. So PDA is pathological demand avoidance. Yes, ODD is oppositional defiant disorder, and RS D, which is rejection sensitivity dysphoria. Now, those three are in Australia not single diagnosis. They are actually under the autism spectrum. But he has all parts of those three disorders.
That's good to know, because there's so much we're learning about autism as well. And I know I personally, like I said to you before, and everyone else too, like I did not know what PDA was, aside from public display of affection, of course, and another version of saying a paid time off. But I'm glad that you're clarifying that for those who don't know about it, because one of our first guests who does have autism, he himself was saying that he got diagnosed late in life and he's still learning about different variations or different branches of autism. So can you give us an example? You mentioned that your 14-year-old has PDA, RSD, and ODD. So how
Yeah.
does it look when it comes to when it comes to your children?
Yeah. So the son who has autism, it is very black and white. So for himself, he has a certain obsession that's single. He doesn't like public. That's him. Where the 14-year-old who has the three underlying disorders, every moment is different, every day is different, every conversation is different, and you never know what you're going to get. It would have to be one of, from my experience, because this is only my journey, would have to be the most exhausting, the most emotionally draining, and you have to continue to, again, talk to yourself. So when it comes to PDA, where he avoids, so that is basically extreme avoidance of everyday demands. And he's really highly anxious. So if I was just to ask him to get ready for school, it would be so any task that you ask him to do, can you just do the dishwasher? It is an outburst. So that is PDA. ODD is the irregular moods. So he could be happy one moment. You could say a word that he has considered a personal attack, which we've now worked out it's actually his name. And then he's just angry and has an outburst. And then rejection sensitivity dysphoria, that one's really emotional. So Xavier feels like he's not wanted, he's not loved, and he has an obsession. And Xavier's obsession is actually me. So I have a lot of strategies that I have to do to give him time. And when he is saying the words like, you don't love me, which you'll hear quite often, you have to say, mate, I'll always love you. And there are lots of strategies that my husband and I have just singly for him. So he does take up a lot of my time. He takes up a lot of my energy. He takes up a lot of my patience. But not every day I can hold it, but most of the time I can.
That is so fascinating to listen to all of this, Cherie. And I'm so thankful and grateful for you to share all this information, because I can only imagine, my mom, right? We as kids always are stubborn with different things. But then when it comes to PDA and ODD and RSD, especially when it comes to obsession and outbursts on daily tasks, I can only imagine how draining it must be for you, especially because you mentioned earlier, or when we were having our talk earlier, that you basically raised your kids mostly like a single parent because your husband was out a lot. So how did you manage that all these years? I'm curious.
So a lot of structure. And I think that's where my superpower comes into, that I'm lucky enough to be ADHD. So for them, there is structure. And every day starts the same. Every day the alarm goes off at the exact same time. I get up and I do the exact same things. And we ensure that everything is timed down to let them know when we're about to leave. A lot of self-development. So really understanding what triggers me as well. Because most likely when I do get heightened or upset for something that they are doing, it would most likely be my past experience and something that's triggering me. So really understanding yourself helps you really manage and support the kids. But definitely structure.
Structure. Okay. Then this is probably a shameless question for me to ask you, because I'm curious. Can you give us an example of what structure looks like for you and your kids, like
Yeah.
on a daily basis? And you don't have to go like specific examples, but just in general, what does that look like?
Well, it's the same, so I could repeat it just like that. So basically my alarm goes off 6:30. I'm a chronotype, if we understand chronotypes. So I'm lucky enough again to be the lion, where my husband is the wolf. So he would prefer to get up later, where I love getting up early. So my alarm goes up at 6:30. I do 2 snoozes because basically I'm letting myself know that I'm about to get up as well. On the second snooze, I turn my side lamp on, which then filters the light, which goes straight to my brain to say, soon you need to get up. I get up, sorry. I walk straight into my son's room. I give him, which is the 14-year-old, I give him a hug. And the reason for that is I will go into some of the strategies later about, I think it's oxytocin. It releases when a mother cuddles, the bond affection. There's a difference between if I don't hug him in the morning and if I do. And then from there, I go straight downstairs and I do the lunches. And my husband gets up. He gets the 2 younger 2 ready. But all 3 children, the oldest one is fine. All 3 children, including the babies, we call them the babies, 5 and 6, they make their own breakfast. From there, basically, 8 o'clock, I run upstairs. I quickly have a shower and get ready, come down. And then I'm just counting down. Yep. Shoes on. So they know the next is the shoes on. And then we're leaving in 10, and out the door.
That is a lot. And I applaud you for doing that because I know I couldn't. I don't know if I have the patience to do all that, but I know the place that you're coming from is from love and care and empathy. So when I say the word superwoman, I mean it when I call you that in all of my posts. So please do know that there's nothing but love and respect, at least coming from me towards you for managing all that. And the struggles, the daily life, the structure, the alarm clocks. It takes me like 5 snoozes to wake up out of bed. I can only imagine the discipline that you have.
Yeah.
So it's really, really appreciated. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I actually want to know, you live in Australia, and I've only been to Australia once, especially in Melbourne. I don't know about the culture over there. So were you able to get community support from your neighbors and from different nonprofit organizations to develop that structure, or just supporting you in anything that you needed?
Yeah. So in Australia, we are lucky enough to have a foundation or a government scheme called NDIS. There's some unfortunate children who unfortunately don't qualify for NDIS funding. We do for Hudson. So Hudson, who is 6, and he gets a certain package. And with that package, we give him a psychologist, a dietitian, an OT, and a speech pathologist, and support care, so a carer. With Xavier having ADHD, now that's not under the NDIS funding. So that is all out of pocket. Being that he has all the underlining autism, on the 5th of September, he is going now for assessment for autism. So if he does qualify for autism and he has the autism and the ADHD, then he'll then qualify for NDIS funding for support. So do I have community support? Well, that's very difficult because my husband and I live in a state where we only have one brother each here. Both of our families live interstate. We are lucky enough that the children do go to very, very supportive schools. So we are extremely lucky that we do have that support. But we mainly have each other. So just my husband and I.
And that is fantastic to hear that at least there's a support system in the household and organizations support externally as well. And actually, you beat me to it regarding the school systems, because my question for you next was, For Xavier, you mentioned the 14-year-old who has the three different branches of autism. How is he adapting to the school environment, and how are his teachers working with him? And the same thing goes with your other kids as well.
Yeah. So for Hudson, who is 6 and has autism, Hudson's autism is very introverted. So therefore they don't have any issues with him at school. And we have consistent meetings with his teachers. As for Xavier having the underlying disorders, they struggle with him a bit. There is probably actually, so it's interesting. There is only one teacher in which he will challenge. There is one teacher where he will continue to keep her on her toes. And we've only really identified these disorders in the last 6 months. So that's a whole nother story regarding Xavier's diagnosis of ADHD. And what I have identified is the female, happens to be a female, the female teacher in which he challenges, he actually has the most connection to. So I've really worked with her, and should I say, she's actually really worked with me. A couple of the teachers have. And we've really just watched his behavior and how and who it is at the time that he is speaking to. And it is mainly her. So we've identified that he is treating her as if she was me. So if she doesn't say something that he agrees with, then he punishes her like he would myself. And that would be either not speaking to her, or he'll jump on a chair, or he'll walk out the classroom. So she has really worked on changing her language as well. And then just allowing him to have that space and giving him the time. So I say to her, don't just allow him to walk out the classroom. He also needs to take accountability for his own actions. So he's timed if he walks out that classroom. And so she's like, okay. And I said, he gets 1 minute, if not 5. And that is it. And then he must come in and sit down and, be a part of the classroom.
So communication seems like a very big factor for Xavier. It seems like. Would you think that?
Yes, communication is, for the simple fact that I could say one thing to him and he interprets it in completely different. So for Xavier having those disorders, being that it's called rejection sensitivity dysphoria, if I was to say, Xavier, can you do the dishwasher? Oh, it's always me. You hate me. So instead of him looking at that is one of his jobs that he needs to do, and that is a part of supporting our home, he sees it as a personal attack. So one of the strategies in which we have done as of late is just to remove his name. So it's, hey, matey, when you get 5 before you go to school, do you mind if you can quickly do the dishwasher? And you get, no worries. So it's really just identifying what his triggers are.
Okay.
And changing the language. Which is fine for me, but it would be extremely challenging for a teacher to continue this on a daily basis. For one child.
I can absolutely imagine that. So, I mean, kudos to the teachers too for trying to adjust, for sure. And I mean, that's the teachers though, because they're educators, they're the adults in the environment. What about his peers? Making friends in the classroom or in social settings?
Yeah, so he's very, very good at making friends, and he has done ever since he was a child. He tends to sometimes say inappropriate things. A lot of the time, he's a very talented boy, very talented. So great, great AFL player, what we classify as football here. He's phenomenal for anything, any type of sport. This boy can do it. So there's a lot of competitiveness with him. So rather than just being a friend, it's more of a competitive relationship. But he and I speak quite often, mostly on a daily basis regarding friendships, or I will allow him to come to me and speak to me about something. And I just ask him, what do you think? What do you think you could have done better? Or if you were to do it a different way, which way do you think you could have done it, which may have given you a better outcome? And allows him to think about his behavior.
So it seems like don't less feedback, more about you tell me.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like facilitating a conversation.
I can absolutely relate to that right now. So that is great, and I'm so glad we're having this conversation, because if you're just telling me what PDA ODD are, rejection uh,
Sensitivity, dysphoria.
dysphoria, I wouldn't know what to think of it unless if I'm actually talking to somebody who's either living it or around
Mm.
people who are living it, because we don't get the authenticity out of it if we're just sharing one or two sentences from the textbook or whatever have you. So that is great. I mean, we went a lot in detail about what those two things are, PDA and ODD, obviously. uh, i would I would actually love to know more about you as well, because of course you had your handful and with a lot of things going on, and you said you started three businesses. How did you do that when managing the home as well?
That's one of the ADHD superpowers. So consistently wanting to learn and consistently wanting to do something. We're very much inside our own heads. So I think for myself, again, we have to remember we are who we are due to, our life experiences and, how we were brought up. I was always told as a child, unfortunately, that I would be in prison and that I would be in prison before I was 21. So I've never went to prison. And I wonder if that ever played in my head that I needed to prove something to people.
Mm.
Where it started my journey of just wanting to, do more, learn more, because I didn't have that opportunity at school. There wasn't the support back then. You were just sent outside the classroom or expelled. So I just have I just have a want. I just have a want. I just want, and for the simple reason, I just want to show my children that no matter what you go through in life, it's forever going to be challenging. But you are in control of it. You're in control of how you allow people to make you feel, how you choose to respond to things. Like, you're accountable for yourself. And they're really driven children.
I can tell they have an amazing role model to look up to. So I can definitely see that they're very driven and they'll be successful as well. So I am glad that you exist and you do what you do for their own growth, their own maturity, their own success when they get older as adults, of course. I did want to step a little bit back for a second because our sponsor had a question for you. How do you prepare him, and I think she's meaning Xavier, for life, or will he then always need to live at home?
Oh, I'd love for my kids to live at home. My husband always says, Cherie, one day they're going to have to move out. So Xavier, prior to working out my own trigger, so there was a lot of headbutting at the beginning of this year with Xavier, because Xavier being the simple task of, mate, have you done your homework, or can you please do your homework? And that would be a huge outburst. I sat back and I worked out that the trigger is actually me. So why do I need him to do his homework? Well, that was because when I was growing up, I didn't do homework. I really struggled through school. I couldn't understand what the teachers were saying. So for him, I was putting pressure on him on do homework, do homework, do homework. You've got to do homework. And, I'll admit sometimes I let things get the better of me. And, I've made some really hurtful comments to him, Xavier, if you don't do this, you're going to be dumb. Oh my God, Xavier, what are you going to do? So I had to work on myself, and I worked out that was my trigger point. So for Xavier now, we don't ask him to do his homework. And he actually volunteered himself to attend a homework club. And how I set him up for later on in life is, I personally believe emotional intelligence is far greater than intellectual. I believe that, well, I know you're not born with empathy. You're not born with naturally just respecting people. And so I love who Xavier is. We get told all the time by people's parents, oh my God, your son is amazing. He's the most respectful boy we've ever had in the house. He has so much manners. He helps me clean up. And I'm like, yes, of course he does. And that's the part I'm happy with. He is very functional. He can absolutely, be able to get a job. And I personally believe he will be a beautiful young man. He loves supporting kids. He's always playing with younger children. So he has empathy, and he has care for others and respect for others. So I think he's going to do amazing in life.
I think he's already doing amazing in life. At 14, you said, right? He is?
Yeah, he's 14.
14, yep. He's already doing great in life. He has all the support he needs to be an awesome human being, and I'm sure he will kick butt when he grows up, when he's in his early 20s or 30s.
Yeah, and I think, for myself, if I look back, I didn't have, school skills. And I understand now he's being challenged at school, and it's not something. But then you now fast forward my life, and I study all day long. Every day I have a podcast in or something where I'm learning something. So I had to just stop and say, what's more important? Him doing homework and having high grades, but then suffering from severe anxiety and depression, or him not having anxiety and depression, and later on in life, he'll find that craving to want to learn more. And he has a great strength. He is extremely great at history, very good at history. So you just have to find their strengths and work with that.
You are so right about that. I can tell you that I was not good in school, and then when I was left alone to myself, my curiosity just peaked, and I get to talk to different people and learn from them and absorb the information that they're giving me, and then apply those principles and make myself a better human being. So I am your full supporter in that, and I truly agree with you that emotional intelligence will get you way far in life than any academic intelligence ever will. So
Absolutely.
thank you for being that. Thank you for being my support system indirectly. I just want to
You're
let you
very
know.
welcome.
And so there's two other things that I wanted to ask you, because I know we have about 15 more minutes left. So just briefly, we talked about ASD, and we're going to do a whole episode on that in the next couple of months. But can you tell us what oh no, not ASD, APD?
Yes, another one. So
Oh,
APD is, what my 19-year-old daughter has, and that is auditory processing disorder.
Mm.
So she has been screened and she doesn't have ADHD and she doesn't have autism. And so auditory processing disorder is where she can only take in, and hers is only 8 words at a time. So learning for her has been quite challenging. Speaking with her has to be in just short sentences. But she masked that for a very long time. And it wasn't until she was around 7 or 8, I just happened to ask her a question. I realized that she didn't repeat the 2 sentences that I gave her. And I had no idea what audio processing disorder was. But again, I was very lucky that when I approached her school teacher that day, she said, "Oh, my son has audio processing disorder." And I was like, "What is that?" And so I've learned so much about auditory processing disorder. Um, and it's just really not the entire sentence going into the brain and understanding everything that you're saying. And again, also, if you say something, she might perceive it as something different.
Mm. That absolutely makes sense, and and thank you for sharing that as well, because this is something that is very very interesting to me. And some of my friends, they have children who are also neurodivergent, and one of the things that they mentioned was that their daughter might have the same thing that your daughter does, auditory processing disorder.
Yeah.
So, for folks who are watching or listening, we're going to have a conversation with Cherie's daughter, Jayla, very soon, and we're going to talk to her about her lived experience with APD. Yeah, APD, and we're going to learn a whole different. We're going to have so much information and so much fun learning about somebody who listens or understands a little differently than we do. And I'm so excited for that conversation. And so when that happens, I'll invite everyone so we can all learn from each other, from our guest, from Jayla. So
Jayla.
from Jayla, for sure. Thank you so much for sharing that. And then I guess oh, actually there was a question that you had, that somebody had for you, Cherie, and that was, did you have issues concentrating on reading books, or did you get lost?
I still don't read books. There's only ever been one book that I do read, or I have read, and that was a very, very long time ago. So I listen to audiobooks, and I take notes. So in my phone, I have a note section. And if there's something that I found really interesting in the book, I would take a note. But yes, over time, it is, even if I have to read a document, I know just to read it in pieces, or I just have to read it more than once. So concentrating on reading is challenging for me. But even if I'm listening to a book, I cannot be doing 2 things at once. So if I'm listening to a book, it'll be I'm driving, although I am doing 2 things at once, but I'm not going to be, writing something. I need to really concentrate on the book.
Right. And I feel like I see myself in you when I was younger, because I will tell you something, Cherie. In high school, when we had to do those summer readings before we go back for our next grade, or even just English lit classes, I remember only reading one book, and that was Of Mice and Men. I don't remember the context or anything like that, but I do remember that being the only book that I ever finished. I was so proud of myself, and I had to read one sentence 7,000 times to understand what's going on. So
Yes.
I totally see that when you talked about that. And William, no, the gifted bipolar is Nick. She is in our comments right now. Cherie is from Australia, the very lovely human being who is dedicating 1 hour of her life for us. So I am very thrilled, and doing 7 cartwheels in my head. So that's my excitement. That's my all over the place brain talking. And then I did want to ask you about the diet that you and your kids have, specific diet to support you all. So, what kind of food is recommended that you know you and your kids eat to support their health?
Yeah, our diet's extremely important in this house. So, with all the researching I've done, the food colorings really play a part in the ADHD behaviors and autism behaviors and anyone's behavior, to be honest. So, listen, I do my best. I bake a lot of their lunches, but there are some times where that weekend is back to back and I don't get that opportunity. So I do click and collect shopping, which gives me the ability to have a look at the ingredients. It takes around 3 hours for myself to do our food shopping. And then they also have smoothies every second day. So in the smoothie, they would have like flax seeds, a lot of the deficiencies that ADHD and autism children have is deficiencies in vitamin D, vitamin C, fish oils, omega-3s. So I place that in their sausagen and they have a smoothie with like spinach, avocado in. Depending on the day, I alternate between the berries. Blueberries are great for the brain. So it's really just doing a bit of research into just healthy foods that are going to support their brain and that aren't going to play a part in, the major behavioral disturbances really and the challenges. So even down to we don't let them eat bread. They have a certain wrap that doesn't have preservatives in, fruits, Greek yogurts.
I listened to this and I'm like 3 hours to figure out what grocery shopping I need to do. Uh, Kudos to you once again, Shuri. I could never do that. I mean, the foods that are found in the United States definitely are some of the ingredients are banned in other parts of the world. So the the stuff that we're inhaling over here and putting in our systems is definitely not supporting us in any way.
Yeah.
So the smoothies part, I totally understand. Spinach, definitely blueberries for sure. And then I'm gonna tell you my personal favorite is mango. So please do not deprive me of mango ever. And so yeah, that is actually very good to know to support the brain health, especially with berries and smoothies. Now
Yeah.
that is something that we're eating and putting in our bodies to support our health. Now there was one specific thing that I always ask in all these shows, and the gifted bipolar writer Nick always appreciates this question, and that is about genetics. So how important are genetics when it comes to children who have autism or different umbrellas of it and things like that?
Yeah. This is really controversial conversation actually, because I believe truly that my son, my 6-year-old, was born with autism. Um, I'm going to say that my 14-year-old son did not have ADHD when he was born and displayed no behaviors of any one of these disorders until he was 7 years old and went through an extremely traumatic event. Do I believe ADHD and autism is genetic? I believe the environment plays a huge part in these disorders and why they are so on the high. The heavy metals in our waters and the air that we breathe, and also the deodorants which people spray around. Our children are continually inhaling a simple deodorant. We don't have, both my husband and I don't have any autism that we're aware of in our family. But if I look at the 4 pregnancies, Jayla had a good pregnancy, but I had a really challenging birth. Xavier, I had a extremely traumatic pregnancy and year. Hudson, I was also going through an extremely traumatic time. And our little Peyton, who is yet to be diagnosed with anything, I had a really calm pregnancy and a really calm birth. So I don't know. These are just my theories. This is my story. It's what the patterns in which I've seen. But I'm not sure.
I can imagine, and I purposely asked that question just because I know it's a controversial conversation. It's nature versus nurture, or environment and genetics, and sometimes some people like, yeah, it's totally genetic, and some of them are like, no, it's totally environmental. It's totally up to what's surrounding us, and some are like right in between. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that you shared that and did include that as a controversial conversation, because it definitely is. Um, I know that I've heard several people say that neurodivergence comes from the mother side of the family or from the mom's genes. I don't know how true that is, because the dad has just as much in making the child happen or creating the child. So I don't know why is it just the mom's genes, but I'm not a doctor, so I don't know what to say. That it's just fascinating. That's all.
I still find it fascinating, and I love looking at the research, and I love listening to the podcast of the doctors speak about this. And there's some phenomenal books out there, audiobooks, that talk about the brain and why it's happening. All I can say to any individual who is being diagnosed of this is just have a look at your surroundings, have a look at your diet, have a look at your environment.
Mhm.
Yeah, have a look at the foods that you're eating.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. And what recommendations or piece of advice would you like to give? Yeah, I don't know. Well, in our audience, I don't know who's a caregiver or who's not a caregiver. I don't want to assume anything, but if they are a caregiver and they might have someone who they're taking care of who is not struggling, but living with similar situations as you are and you did, what advice would you give to support them?
Yeah, I would give that never compare your child with anybody else's. Um, really have a look at your child's diet. It plays a huge part. Do more testing. See if they've got parasites. Do a cleanse. Have a look at some natural medications like ginkgo for the memory, or saffron for, depression and anxiety. Um, have a look at what triggers you, and really develop and understand yourself, um, and pay attention to that, and observe your patterns as well as theirs. Um, and every day is going to be different. Absolutely, every day is going to be different.
You'll be on
Yeah.
your toes every day, it seems like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You are in control of it.
You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right about that. Take control and it'll be much better than you would think or imagine.
Yeah. Also, I'd like to say one thing. Quite often, and I still see it to this day, is when a child is having a really heightened moment. Not very many parents know this, but what happens is their prefrontal cortex just basically kind of shuts off, and the amygdala kicks in. So no matter what you are saying to your child, they are not understanding. So connection before correction is just being able to just really calm them down. And whatever that is, we have to remember every strategy for a child is different. We have a balloon that just sits in the house, and the kids just kick that around if they're angry or if they're frustrated. There's lots of ways that you can do, but just remember to not yell at the child, because they mimic you. They mimic what and the way you're reacting. So just wait until they've been able to, kick back in their prefrontal cortex, and then have that conversation. But while they are kicking and screaming, it's going in one ear and out the other. So just allow them that time, and allow them to kick and scream and get it out, whatever that looks like.
That is such great advice, Shuri. And I think a lot of parents do need to hear that, because I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not a parent myself and I don't intend or ever plan to be a parent, but definitely the comparing part of, you know, well, this person's kid is like this. Why can't you be like your sister or your cousin or your friend or whatever? that is definitely the most harmful thing you could ever do for your child, regardless of neurodivergence or not, just in general too. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And there's so many comments coming in during our show. And Cherie, I can't read them all out loud right now, but feel free to read the comments after the show because lots of important information and lots of curiosities are being shared as well. So we are at 7 o'clock our time. It's 11 o'clock your time, right? Maybe
12 p.m. We just hit lunchtime.
Oh, lunchtime. Okay, I cannot
Yeah.
deprive you of your lunchtime. So, once again, thank you so much for spending 1 hour with me and all our friends for joining us live. And thank you so much for being just being who you are, being raw, bringing your real authentic self, sharing your story with us, and of course your children. I hope they're okay with their story being shared as well, and nothing but awesomeness and blessings your way, and positive things, vibes, all of that stuff your way. And I'm sure that you will kick butt in all the businesses that you do, and
Thank you.
sharing that with your children as well.
Amazing. Thank you very much for having me. I just wanted to say, Noni, that, a part of my discovery when I was diagnosed, I think the turnaround was what I facilitate, and I facilitate insights, discovery, profiling. So that is a 22-page that is actually used by about 85% of the Fortune 500 companies. They integrate that into their culture, into organizations. And I think that's where, we first connected. Mm-hmm. So for today, I would really like to offer for an entire year, and I work globally. I have a partner in Toronto in Canada, at Emil Studman at Cooperation Works. So anybody that purchases a Insights Discovery Profile from myself, I am offering a free 60-minute one-on-one debrief, and 10% of the profit for the next year I would like to send to O.Z.K.
Oh, well, this was a pleasant surprise. Not just the 10% profit, but just the fact that you're offering a 60-minute debrief and doing something so amazing for everybody. Thank you so much, Cherie.
Okay.
That is really, really appreciated. And wow, I literally did 5 cartwheels in my head. I will do 7 backflips after we go offline. And but yeah, thank you so much, Cherie. That is very, very generous and kind of you, for sure. And if anybody, please, if you're interested in learning more about what Cherie has to offer, please do reach out to her. I've been tagging her in basically all my posts regarding this, so it's easy to look for Cherie on LinkedIn. Her name's over here as well. So please do not hesitate to reach out either to me or Cherie. And if you're more comfortable reaching out to me, I'm more than happy to do an intro. That's not a problem at all. So once again, Cherie, attendees, thank you so much for spending this hour with me and learning from each other and educating. And I couldn't have had a better guest today. And thank you, Nick, for sponsoring this episode. You are awesome. You are so great. And with that being said, I will go ahead and play the song that I created for Cherie that I played in the very beginning, and then we'll close out the room. Sound good?
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cherie. I'm going to put you back down in the studio.
Silent. The house hums with chaos every day. Little hands pulling, little voices fray. Laundry piles high, like mountains, gray. But she climbs, she finds a way. 3 little storms, her world they shake. 3 little suns, her dawn they make. They call her mad, but they don't see. She's the stars of her sky, the roots of her tree. Through the noise, through the tears, she turns the madness into years. She bends, she breaks, she mends, she tries. She's the stars of her sky. Markers on the walls, the clock spins wrong. Mornings melt like honey, nights stretch too long. Socks don't match, the math feels strong, but her love hums louder, a steady song. 3 little storms, her heart they keep. 3 little dreams, her soul they sweep. They call her mad, but they don't see. She's the stars of her sky, the roots of her tree. Through the noise, through the tears, she turns the madness into years. She bends, she breaks, she mends, she tries. She's the stars of her sky. Markers on the walls, the clock spins wrong. Mornings melt like honey, nights stretch too long. Socks don't match, the math feels strong, but her love hums louder, a steady song. 3 little storms, her heart they keep. 3 little dreams, her soul they sweep. They call her mad, but they don't see. She's the stars of her sky, the roots of her tree. Through the noise, through the tears, she turns the madness into years. She bends, she breaks, she mends, she tries. She's the stars of her sky.